Hello, this is Anja, and in this short video clip I would like to answer a question which was just addressed to me, and of course not the first time, and I'm sure that many people would like to hear this again or for the first time, this little detail about one specific part of Omnec Onec's life story of her autobiography. And this is what happened to the body of the girl Omnec replaced when she was 7 years old. I would like to tell now this whole story of Omnec's arrival on Earth, so that also those of you who have not read the book and who don't really understand in detail what this is about, so that it's easier to have this overview for those of you who are interested in Omnec Onec's life story and autobiography. Because there's this one specific detail, which is Omnec was brought to Earth with her own physical body to replace a different child on Earth. And Omnec was not entering as a soul this other body. And she was also not going through her own birth process on Earth, just remembering herself as having lived on Venus. So these two options would also be possible, if you know what I mean. But in Omnec's case, it's really something very unique, very different compared to soul memories or walk-ins. These are two other possibilities to feel a connection to Venus. But in Omnec's case, it's something else. So this something else I'm now trying to explain to the best of my ability, as good as I know it, and as shortly as possible yet. According to Omnec's autobiography, she was given, she lived, this is the beginning, she lived on the astral plane on Venus. According to Omnec, all other planets have not only a physical plane, but also other dimensional planes, higher dimensional planes, where, for example, in this case, I'm only talking about Venus of this solar system. There is a society residing on the astral plane on Venus. And Omnec said that she was born there on Venus on the astral, with an astral body. So she's not talking about a physical society. She's talking about an astral society. And she said that she was given birth there with her astral body, and that she grew up there until she was, she did not grow up until she was an adult, but she was born there and she had her childhood there. And when she was approximately 7 years old in this astral body, she was given the opportunity, she was asked by the masters, because as a soul, she is a very, very evolved soul. So even when she was in a 7-year-old, so to say, if we compare it to physical ages, it was a child's body, so to say. Yeah, she was still, as a soul, a very evolved soul. So in this dimension, of course, adults and children and masters are on the same level of communication. And then that means that she was given the opportunity, that she was asked by spiritual masters if she was willing to go on an adventure, to fulfill a mission, to receive a mission, to fulfill her karmic debts, and so on. So it was a real, some important reasons why they asked her if she would be willing to manifest a physical body to be brought to Earth accompanied, of course, by others who help her with this project. And that she would replace on Earth another child that was just looking like her, and grow up on Earth instead of this child in this family, in this society, in this system, to later on in her life fulfill a spiritual mission and to share love and spiritual information from the highest source, so to say. So this was just in short terms the reason why she was asked to go to Earth. And of course, she wanted to do that for many reasons, for all these reasons, which made sense for her. It was an exciting project, and she felt that it is something that it is part of her life purpose, that it's part of her mission, and she said she agreed. And eventually, she and her uncle Odin, this is what she explains in her autobiography, went on Venus. She says there's a city called Reds, and this city exists on other dimensions as well. I guess also on the higher plane. So it's like a multidimensional city existing on the astral, on the physical, and certainly has the connection to the other dimensions as well. I cannot say about the higher dimensions at this moment. They are not part of this information right now. It's about the astral and the physical. So she said that when the time came, of course, she was prepared and she had to prepare herself and everything. And when the time came, she and her uncle Odin, because he decided to go to the physical existence, into the physical body as well, because he was a scientist, he is a scientist. And for him, it was also making sense to go into the physical plane, to continue his researches and his work in the physical dimension. Because as you probably can imagine, everything that exists on the astral, inventions and technology and everything, there are different laws, there are different rules, there are different laws, scientific laws, gravitation and all these kind of things. They are not, this is physical terms, everything is different in the astral, so they have to lower the vibration of inventions as well, to figure out how they can function in the physical dimension. I am not sure if this was one of the main reasons why he decided, but as far as I know, it was his job also to accompany Omnec, and it was his decision to go to the physical plane for his own technological reasons and research reasons, and for his personal reasons, spiritual reasons, whatever. Anyway, these two went to the city of Reds. And in the city of Reds, there's a special temple which gives those souls who decide to go to the physical, and certainly also the other way around, I guess, the ability and the technology to lower their vibrations. Omnec explained it like that it was really a simple thing that they called, maybe they sung a special mantra, certainly something with sound and with energy and everything. So it is a process, a spiritual process, lowering the vibration. And this is what Omnec and her uncle Odin together did there. And then they took a spaceship. This is what how she explains it, that there are these UFOs, these we call them UFOs, of course, for extraterrestrial beings. They are not UFOs because they are not unknown flying objects. They are known flying objects, right? Spaceships or spacecrafts or flying saucers, like we call them also. It is all long time ago. It's around 70 years ago. So she explains that she, accompanied by her uncle Odin, and I guess there were also some other, she was also talking about a man from Mars, a Martian, and certainly some crew, that they entered this little craft, this spaceship, that they flew together to a cigar-shaped ship, because she said that the cigar-shaped ships the big ones. The motherships are for the long-term distances in the solar system. They use them for the long-term distances. And the smaller crafts are for the shorter distances. So they took the little one, flew into the big one. There in the cigar-shaped ship, she was brought to the atmosphere of the Earth. And then again, when it was time to go into the atmosphere, to land on Earth, again, they walked into this small ship again. And first, she said she was brought to a monastery in the Himalayan mountains, because there is a monastery which has been used by space travelers for thousands of years, where they land to get adjusted to the gravity, to the atmosphere, and to the Earth energy. So they are not directly going somewhere in a big city on Earth, for many, many reasons. And for Omnec, it was, of course, very important to go there in the beginning, because she needed to be prepared. She needed to learn the language. She needed to get used to her physical body. This is a very funny thing when she's talking about this in her lectures and in her book, that it was a very, very difficult time for her in the beginning to get used to this physical body. She explains it, she's talking like a suit of armor, as a soul, or in an astral body, you of course totally light and totally free. Of course you have a shape, but it's not a physical density. And to get used to the physical density when you're just coming from the astral is something that is really really a hard thing, and it takes a while. For her, it has always been difficult for her to really say how long she was there. Maybe a couple of months, maybe it was a year, I don't know. Try to just imagine that this little child that was just manifested a physical body, that she had to get used to this body, to the bodily functions, to eating, going to the toilet, to breathing, to sleeping, to wearing clothes, to brushing the teeth, everything, to keeping the balance. She said this was one of the most difficult things in the beginning, that she was making experiences with her voice, that she sung mantras, for example, to get used to her voice and all these kind of things. So she said that she was living there in this monastery among monks who knew space travelers and who had their joy with this little girl from Venus. As she explained it, that it was really funny for them to watch her, to observe her, to see how she was doing and what she refused to do, because she did not want to go to sleep. She did not want to go this and to the toilet. She refused almost everything physically in the beginning, she said. But in the end, of course, she was prepared, and she was then again with her uncle Odin taken to the place where she was supposed to replace the other girl that already had grown up until she was around 7 on Earth in the American family. These used to be twin souls, twins in a different lifetime during the French Revolution, as Omnec explains it. So this is a different story. It is just like they had a karmic bond, that there was still some karma between them, and Omnec owed something to this other soul. She owed her life. This is a different thing, because this other soul, as Omnec explains it, gave her life during the French Revolution for Omnec, for the Omnec soul. The story is in the book in detail. So there was still something open between them. And this was one of the reasons why Omnec was able to receive the genetic imprints from this other soul, so that they looked like twins on the Earth. And so there was this karmic reason, and there was this genetic similarity, like twin souls, like twin physical twins. And this is why they looked absolutely alike. They were like one-act twins. And when the day came that everything was perfectly prepared, you have to try to imagine, it's like in a movie, you know, there is this little Omnec girl getting used to her physical body in a Tibetan monastery somewhere in the Himalayas, accompanied by her uncle, and preparing herself to enter this other life, of course, in America, in the United States. And at the same time, there was this life of this other girl, of this Sheila. And this also had to be organized, because the moment when they had to meet, the moment when this replacement had to happen, it had to be really good, well prepared from the spiritual perspective. So there were difficult family situations. This is how Omnec explains it in her autobiography. Very, very difficult. The friend or the partner of the mother was an alcoholic, the mother as well. And for Sheila's protection, because it was a very, not cruel, it was a imbalanced family situation, so to say. So it was not pleasant for a little girl. It was absolutely no stability, absolutely difficult. So this mother, of course, because she loved her little Sheila, her little girl, decided to send Sheila to her grandmother so that she would take care of her, so that she would be in a safe place. And this was supposed to happen by bus. And so Sheila had her clothes on, she had probably a little suitcase, and she had a little note in her pocket for the grandmother that she should take care of her and that she loves her and everything, you know, all these kind of things in detail. How can I know the details? But this is how Omnec explains it, that she was sent by her mother to her grandmother by bus. And at the same time, Omnec had arrived already there in this area, in this place, somewhere where a bus accident had to happen. And during this bus accident, this replacement had to take place, was supposed to take place. It was all perfectly arranged, if you want to see it like that. So Omnec was accompanied by her uncle and by the Martian and prepared already for a couple of days or weeks in America, hidden, of course, everything hidden, because she had to get used to some American stuff like drinks and everything. She had to get used to this atmosphere already, because she was supposed to live there for the rest of her life. And this preparation led to this moment in this area. Probably it was night and it was rainy. This is how I can visualize it. I guess it's also like written in the book. So anyway, something happened. There was some problem with the bus, technological problems, or he had not a clear vision, or something happened. Anyway, there was a bus accident and there was fire. And during this accident, this Sheila was thrown out of the bus and died, or she burned. It is an information that even Omnec does not, either she does not have it clear or she did not share it clearly. It's not something that we want to know in detail. It's something that we have to accept the way she tells us, right? So the thing was that Omnec was supposed to replace this little girl and the other girl. Of course, it would not make sense if all of a sudden there were two of the same. Omnec could not replace her when she was still there. It was her karma to because this other girl did not have the same strength as a soul to live this extremely difficult life. It was her rescue. She was released from this lifetime, from this hardship, from this torture, in this difficult emotional situation with the family. And Omnec was a different soul. They had a connection, but yet Omnec, with her full knowledge, full memory, and full realization who she was, had a different capacity of living this difficult life, plus her mission. So she could survive that. This other girl could not have survived this life anyway. And that's why it all made in the end, it all makes sense, you know. So Omnec, accompanied by these two, by her uncle and by the Martian, were in the area where the bus accident happened. The bus accident created chaos, fire, people were probably injured and everything. And this girl, Sheila, died during this accident. Omnec was asked many times later what happened to the body. And she always said her uncle Odin and the Martian took care of it. Probably it was killed during the accident through fire or through some, you know, whatever can happen when a bus turns around or something. It's nothing nice to visualize. So a little girl, you know, and so they knew what happened. They found her and they took care of this body. So it was never found, and it was not meant to be found anyway, because then the whole thing would not have worked out. You know, it made sense. And Omnec says that this was the moment. She had the same clothes on. She had the same note in her pocket. All was alike. And she was certainly nervous, but she knew what happened. It was her mission. It was her life's purpose to enter into this situation and to replace the Sheila now. Now she was Sheila. And she said that she fell once and that she injured her knee. So she looked like one of the survivors, or she looked like she was just not so severely injured. And that's basically it. Then how this exactly continued, and Omnec never explained in detail. She probably, ambulance came and everything, and another bus who then took those passengers who were not so injured or somewhere else. This is what happens when an accident happens, right? These people who are involved and who don't need to go to the hospital and everything, they are somehow picked up again and brought to their destination. And this is what happened. And eventually Omnec, who was now Sheila, arrived at her grandmother's house. And since they looked so alike, and since of course nobody could imagine what happened, that this was not the girl. Plus Omnec says that the grandmother hadn't seen the little Sheila in a while, in many years, 3 or 4 years. So, you know, in this age, children change rapidly. There's a big difference between a 3 or 4 year child and a 7-year-old child, of course. And so how should the mother come to the idea that this is not the Sheila that she had in mind, or that she memorized from a couple of years ago? It was the same body, so to say. And Omnec was prepared. She knew what she had to do, and it was not difficult in the end to step into this situation. She was just the little girl. She was just the little grandkid from this grandmother. And Omnec was prepared. She knew the mother from explanations. She was able as a soul to observe everything that's necessary. She was able to receive the information that was important for her to know. So as a 7-year-old child, of course, it's much more difficult to replace an adult or something like that. But as a 7-year-old child, it was not so difficult from that perspective. And this is how the replacement, how the exchange took place. This is how Omnec tells it in her autobiography, and how she has been telling it thousands of times when she was giving lectures and workshops. And so from that point on, she grew up with her grandmother. And then the story continues, right? Ganz pretty normal, so to say. Omnec had big karmic difficulties to experience. She still had to experience a lot of hardship. And that's all in the autobiography, because this was part of her plan. This was part of her plan to go through everything that was still open, because she knew as a soul she had the strength to go through all this hardship, because it was her last lifetime. It's her last lifetime, so to say. She was given the information by the masters on Venus already before she came, that this was all planned to finish all her open, all the open ends from all lifetimes. So this is why it was so difficult for her to experience a lot of difficulties, and to go through with this open awareness and this full consciousness as an awakened soul, as an evolved soul, to go through this life in a time when America still had racism and still had a lot of religious fanatics and very close-minded people and everything. So of course it was a very, very hard time until she was much older. She did not go to the public with her story before she was, I guess, 40 or so. It was pretty late, because first she had to have children, but I'm not going to go into the full story now. But the thing is that most of the family karma and everything was experienced in these years, until she then eventually went to public. This happened, I guess, in the beginning of the 70s. It all started, the public work, when she already had her book written, and then one thing led to the other. And it was in the beginning of the 70s. She was just having, she just had her daughter, and she was pregnant with her son. And then later she had a fourth child. So she was very busy also, not only with surviving this life, this difficult life with this body, with retaining her memory, her soul knowledge and everything, plus raising these children and everything. So she was very, very occupied and busy before she came out with her story when she went to public. So I hope this makes this all understandable and clear, that this is a mission, that this is a pretty big story, a very interesting story, a very beautiful story in a way from the universal perspective. It's absolutely fascinating, I feel. And I thank you very much for listening, and hope to see you. Bye-bye.